Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Sasuke Retsunden manga chapter number 9. And now that chapter 9 is done in the books, we got a 52-page chapter to go over, and this will be the next to last chapter that we have in the series itself, which is going to conclude in 2 weeks. And it's going to be very curious to see if we're going to get an original ending like the anime version, or if the manga continues to closely follow the light novel and leave us with the knowledge of Naruto's chakra illness hasn't truly been cured yet and won't be cured until Naruto Retsunden itself. That being said, if you're someone who has missed seeing Sasuke get creative with this ninjutsu and with his combat methods while also giving off that Sasuke Uchiha bloodlust that has his enemy completely scared stiffless even without seeing him, this is definitely a chapter that you yourself are going to enjoy. So the chapter opens up with all the dragons charging towards Sasuke, and Sasuke once again uses his partial Susanoo to cover himself and Minnow, but this time he uses the Susanoo to throw Minnow in the direction of the largest dragon on the battlefield. Meanwhile, Sasuke uses a two-stage attack to take out the huge swarm of dragons. First, he uses his Chidori Senbon to land multiple hits on the dragons that are flying in the air, and as they get electrocuted and they fall to the ground, Sasuke times that attack so that they all fall and crash onto the dragons onto the ground, taking out the whole group with one calculated and effortless attack. While this is going on, Minnow scales the largest dragon that Zanzuru is riding on and begins to attack Minnow, and it's here that Sasuke realizes that Zanzuru doesn't have full control over the Edo Tensei dragons. After Sasuke quickly takes down another group of dragons, he leaps into the air and with Chidori running through his sword and uses another round of Chidori Senbon to take out the dragons that are in the air, and after landing, he takes time to warn Zanzuru to not try and control so many dragons at once, since he isn't the caster of the Edo Tensei, which, as a side note, the light novel goes in detail in making sure that we know that due to Zanzuru not being the caster, if he gives anything other than simple commands, he runs the risk of the Edo Tensei backfiring on him, and Sasuke was trying to take advantage of that, likely knowing that if Sasuke told someone as arrogant as Zanzuru not to do something, Zanzuru would do it anyway just to prove Sasuke wrong. So we see a little bit more of Sasuke's intelligence in the novel. The manga actually implies it, but it doesn't outright just tell you. Now, this leads to Sasuke using his Ame no Teiji card to use it in a very downright brutal way once he sees another dragon charging towards him. He waits until the dragon lowers his head in order to eat him, and he throws his sword high into the air and simultaneously uses the Ame no Teiji card to switch places, which causes the sword to return to Sasuke's original location, and this in turn places Sasuke high in the air to scout the area, and it also places the sword in the middle of the eye of that dragon, taking it down immediately. Upon seeing that the larger dragon is approaching the lake, Sasuke orders Minnow to attack all of his heels, ripping out chunks of his flesh and causing it to fall over and drown in the giant lake, with a pretty cool double-page spread depicting all of that action. Meanwhile, Zanzuru, who is now being carried through the air by another dragon, begins giving another set of orders, telling the dragons to get itself out of the lake, and then ordering the dragon carrying him to go fetch the dragon that was drowning, which leads to Zanzuru being released, and as he falls to his death, he realizes where he made his mistake, and Sasuke just looks on mercilessly. It's then that Sasuke gets a message from Kakashi, which informs Sasuke of something that happened on screen in the Kakashi Retsunden story, which is that Kakashi has now successfully defeated an army of 300 shinobi all on his own, and has taken down the prime minister and has successfully placed Prince Nanar on the throne of Radaku, which I've covered that story in a different playlist on the channel titled Kakashi Retsunden, which I highly recommend checking out, and I'll leave a playlist link to that at the end of this video in the end credits. Meanwhile, as Sakura is battling the dragons and protecting the prisoners, she sees Sasuke's old cellmates charging forward with weapons in order to attract the dragons, which leads Sakura to a stunned moment for a second. However, it's then that we see Gigi show up, and he begins to give chase to Sakura and tries to trap her using the giant earth release mud wall that he uses, and we start to to see some of the chinks break in Gigi's armor. We see signs of more compassion than what we saw in the anime when he attacked Sakura in this scenario, and we actually see Sakura behave more in a way that is closer to the light novel and not what you saw in the anime. The anime version was a complete change. So Gigi is confronted by Sakura about using the Edo Tensei, forcing those dragons to act against their will and forcing the people to suffer, and we see him state more than once he doesn't look forward to actually killing Sakura. However, in this version of the story, we don't have Sakura pretending to be affected by some poison serum. She's standing her ground confident because she's already set up a trap a long time ago. In the anime, Sakura had planted a ceiling tag underneath the ground and pretended to be affected by the serum, whereas in the manga and in the light novel, Sakura actually saw through Gigi from the very beginning and set up a trap for him by placing a chakra seal onto Gigi's wrist that Sakura could trigger if Gigi ever gave her a reason to suspect him for anything other than being creepy, because in the light novel she takes notes of the fact that Gigi's hands were the hands of a shinobi, basically hardened by callus and by all the scars on his hand, and she could tell from inspecting his body that he knew how to mold chakra, something that none of the other prisoners could actually do. But because she saw how close Sasuke and Gigi were getting, and because Sasuke was signing off on him, Sakura never shared her suspicions about Gigi. The reason why she got poisoned is because even though Gigi was being creepy, she didn't think that he was a threat until it was too late. She just thought that this was some lonely inmate trying to cop a feel on her, didn't realize she got stabbed until it was too late. That's why after being stabbed, she immediately tried to use her chakra, basically hoping to trigger the seal that she placed onto him, but she was unable to use her chakra during that time. This leads to Gigi attempting to break out of the seal, but he pauses the moment he feels an overwhelming bloodlust wash over him. Even though Sasuke isn't shown in that moment, he knows that it's Sasuke, and in the light novel we have Sasuke's internal monologue that states that Sasuke has a murderous intent and is planning to use Genjutsu to kill Gigi and put him to sleep permanently, which is a side note. That's actually something Genjutsu can do. Genjutsu can actually kill the person. Itachi has done it more than once. However, just as Sasuke calmed himself down in that light novel, the same thing happens here, and Gigi, upon seeing Sasuke as an Uchiha, accepts his pending fate of the Genjutsu, but Sasuke tells him to come clean, and Sasuke says that he knows Gigi isn't anything like Zanzuru, which makes him wonder why he even agreed to go along with something like this. Sasuke has a moment where we can see that he's recalling himself saving Naruto from Haku way back in the Land of Wade, and as he asks Gigi why he saved their cellmates, Gigi reveals the truth with a small change in the story. So in the manga version, Sasuke is closer to what he is in the light novel, where when Gigi asks him if he would ever use Edo Tensei to revive a loved one, Sasuke in the novel thinks about how Itachi was an Edo Tensei and how he was able to get closure with Itachi, and wonders if anything happened to Sakura Sarda, if he would go to those links. And just as the light novel had it, before Sasuke could answer, Sakura flat out says Sasuke would probably do it if he's placed in that situation, and even goes as far as to say that if she lost the person that she loved, i.e. Sasuke, that she'd reach out for it as well, just to be able to see him again. But she knows that her friends and family would stop her as Sasuke before it ever got to that point. And upon hearing the name of Gigi's lover, we see Sasuke reveal the truth, that the Prime Minister had lied to Gigi with a fake death certificate, and so too did Zanzuru, and that Gigi's fiance Margot was still alive. As Gigi breaks down into tears, we see another dragon attempt to attack Sakura, but unlike what we saw in the anime where Sakura's just standing there, she actually turns around and floors it with one hit, and Gigi undoes the Edo Tensei. Now, we haven't seen the last of that dragon beast yet, I will say that, but that will be covered in the next chapter. But essentially, this chapter ends off with Sasuke saying goodbye to Minho, thanking him for all of his help, and tells him to take it easy. This was a very well-paced chapter, 52 pages, but it flew by very quickly. It didn't overload us either. I did think that artistically, Kimura Shingo did have a few panels where he kind of overdid it with the speed lines, but it wasn't in every single panel in the chapter either. So, I mean, I can give the guy a break there. I thought continuing to use the flashbacks by blending them in with the present day speaker, that was a really good choice. Really reminded me of some of the stuff that we saw in Naruto's manga a few times, especially towards the end of the manga itself. And that's good use of panel, because you're not wasting panels with flashback scenes being used in panels alone. You're giving the reader something new on top of that. I'm very curious to see if we get a proper ending next week, because the scene cut from the anime with Sasuke and Sarada, or if we're going to be getting an original ending like we did with the anime, because as some of you guys know, this is the middle part of a 3-part story. Ending with an original ending would be like ending the Star Wars saga with Empire Strikes Back with an original ending that ends the story altogether, whereas in truth the story itself isn't truly over. That being said, my chapter question for you guys is, which version have you preferred so far, the anime or the manga version? For those of you guys who are curious to check out what Kakashi's been up to over in Radaku, make sure to check out this playlist you see on the screen right now.